Hello, beloved.
Hi, Brooke. It's so good to be here. Good morning.
Coming, Victoria. I'm so honored you took this time today to speak with me and anyone that checks into this from all time and space. For those of you that don't know me yet, I am Brooke Grove. I am a near-death experiencer, a healer teacher, and now an author. And this is my dear friend and co-editor, Victoria Erickson.
So happy to be here. I'm Victoria. I'm a poet. I'm an author. I teach women creative writing. I co-edit books, and I'm a bit of a book doula, and I teach women's entrepreneurship. So I'm so honored to be here. Absolutely loved working on this project with Brooke. It was so magical. So
It
yeah.
was, and in a way, it's one of those things for me where it's like you would have never imagined it, but at the same token, it makes complete sense because I remember when you started sharing, I have screenshots and like saves of your like original post.
Wow.
Okay. And I
Yeah.
was just like, I understand this woman, you know,
That's
like
the thing about writing is we feel the vibration of the person from thousands of miles away and we're like, okay, our souls connect. We know. We just know.
we just know. And so,
Yeah.
I believe I began writing with you about 2022. So
Wow.
Victoria does these amazing, amazing, amazing immersions, which at the time I think they were like 10 weeks. I think now you do 8, right?
Yeah. Yes, they were 10 weeks in the beginning. Now they're 8 weeks. It's a beautiful pocket of time where we just let go and dive into the written word and the nervous system, which is a big part of what Brooke's book is all about, because this
Yes,
nervous
yes.
system work is what we all need.
It
Yeah.
most definitely is. And I think for me it was so important because the title, The
Yes.
Beauty in the Broken Glass, came from a poem I wrote back then, one of the earliest ones. And the introduction came also from a poem I wrote in one of your immersions. So
Oh, good.
I always knew that like I was gonna save those ones. And you know how it is when you create so much, you don't necessarily know where it all is.
Yes.
And it wasn't until I decided to redo the entirety of the book most recently that I was like, that's a good title. And that poem is where we're going to start, although I transformed it into, prose. But so I'd like to just kind of dive into a little bit because you are so good at pulling people back into their body. And I mean, it's like one of your magic, your magic traits. And for me, as someone that had so much trauma that the book goes into, and that, wrote often from a consciously channeled place, you and I have that in common. That's really how we work, and that's why we vibe well. But at the same token, when you go into that deep, dark stuff, and you're knowing that you're putting it out there or that it's going to be consumed. Okay, which is a major trigger for a complex trauma survivor because safety is like your paramount concern. And suddenly you're taking your most tender parts and you're putting them out there. There were times, and if you could share a little bit about where I really went out of the body.
Yes, throughout the process of writing the book, absolutely. And I think I kind of picked up on those areas where you were kind of bypassing the actual physical part of being in the energy of writing those parts. And it makes sense because those seem to be the parts where you were a little dissociated, right? Like during them as they were happening in your life. So in fact, like later on, we tend to dissociate around those parts too. So I had to kind of gently lead you back and say, Brooke, but how did it feel? How did it feel? What was the feeling of it, because you also have this beautiful like academic part to you, and that's where you would kind of like glide over it with the academics and the science, but we needed to take it back to the body so the audience could still feel that deep emotional connection that you're also so magnificent with. So yeah, those were the parts. And I'm definitely an energy worker myself. So when I'm co-editing a book, I can feel when someone drifts out of their body and they need to come back in because we sometimes lose the connection with the reader and audience when we come out and into the head. So I can read the energy of that. And it didn't happen too much though. You did such a beautiful job of staying present in it though, I have to say.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you. I appreciate that. It's part of really why I started writing with you, to be honest, because when I came to your immersions, I had immense pressure on me from the near-death community. Everyone wanted a book. It's like a thing, in our community. You tell the story, you do some documentaries, and everyone wants to read it.
Fascinating experience. Everyone wants to know about it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was fascinating, but I have this rebellious capacity, and I'm also very tenacious. And for me, because I started speaking on the gaps of care in integration and the struggles of embodiment when you've been dissociated for decades, and the reality of an NDE heightening that, for me, there was this stubbornness to, I will not write it until I can be in integrity with the nervous system and grounded and able to really serve from that place. And that took years. And that's
Yeah.
really what introduced me to working with you because it wasn't about creating a book in the beginning. I knew I was writing a book eventually, but there was no timeline. And it was kind of like, I need to get in the body
Yeah.
first.
You knew intuitively. Yeah, you knew intuitively. And that's so true. Sometimes we need to do the work beforehand before we can just sit down and write it. And I'll say when you're actually ready, it can happen very fast, very, very fast because and I always say we need to put ourselves in the position that the writing comes through easily. And
Mhm.
whether that looks like deep nervous system work or being able to be present, and it's essentially the same thing, be present with the energy moving through us, right? Which is nervous system capacity.
Mhm.
We need to put ourselves in the position where flow state comes easily, and then the book is a very pleasurable, wonderful flowing experience.
Mhm.
If we try to do it without that, it becomes forcing it. We're in our heads. We're trying to think about all the technical terms. We're trying to do everything correctly. When there is no such thing as correctly, when you're just deep in the body with that capacity, it will come out beautifully. Of course, you go back and edit later, but
Mhm.
it's the positioning that's really important before the writing. So you intuitively knew that, and I'm really proud of all the work you did to
Thank you.
be able to get to that place.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was a lot of work, but it was worthy. And as you said, I mean, for those that are listening and you witnessed this, there were poems I was collecting to compost because I knew they had certain passages that would work well in the story. There were just specific, ones where I was like, oh, you got to keep that because it works with this. So
Yeah.
I really learned the power of composting working with you. But
Composting. Yes.
talk about composting for a
Oh my
moment
God.
before I
I
go into
love
the
it.
next part.
Everything counts. Everything
Yes.
counts. Like we may think we're just rattling off and writing all sorts of random things when we're in a writing practice, but actually everything counts. We gather, we keep, we build on the practice, and then we realize that we're actually connecting everything later, whether we're producing a book or I don't know, a Substack or coming out with social media or just putting these life parts together. Everything counts. And I love this idea of calling it composting. I think Natalie Goldberg called it that in Writing Down the Bones, or someone did.
Mhm.
And it just means that every time we're in a writing practice, it all counts and we gather it and we can use it later for something. Because really, in a human life, everything connects anyway. So, as we know, all the threads become braided together and can be used. So, I love that. That's so beautiful. And you did a beautiful job composting these things and weaving them all together so seamlessly.
And I feel that because of the embodied aspect of our work together, it was fascinating to me because I keep meticulous notes and I had like, flagged pages of what I thought I would use. I touched none of it. But when I was consciously channeling, then all of a sudden I would notice, oh, that came from a poem from way back. Like I remembered it, but it had been
Yes.
embodied. So now it was just kind of, it's like your language with the divine, but it's coming back through you. You don't even need to kind of outsource back to your own notes because it's now become like a lived expression.
Yes. Oh my God, that makes me so excited. Absolutely. It's all embodied. Yeah, it's just a magical portal with everything right there.
Super, super,
You're
super.
like traveling through it and just like, oh, I've got this, I've got this, I've got this. And it's like divinely orchestrated.
So much so, so much so. And
Yeah.
one thing that you and I discussed as it's relevant to the chapter, but I also feel like it's relevant to like a lot of the energy that's in the field right now with our divided awakening world. And it's something that I wrote to. And I know because you've been sharing your talent online for quite a while now and teaching openly that you've experienced this too. So I just want to acknowledge it because it's part of the book. It's part of what our discussions were together, and I feel it needs to be said, not tolerated. And that is this, beloveds, that when we put ourselves out there publicly, unfortunately, there is both a velocity and an intensity of hurt that is projected outward on the talent or the person that is sovereign and willing to share their truth and their voice. And this velocity is quite vile. And it seems, per my lived experience, and you can share yours momentarily, Victoria, it seems to be particularly targeted towards the feminine.
Yes, it does. I think there is a lot of anger projected at the feminine, especially when they're clearly in their power in that moment, right? And speaking clearly and from the body and yeah, a powerful source of energy. Definitely things are projected and we're still working and through that and figuring out exactly why that is.
And
What are your thoughts on it?
I feel like what you're saying is absolute, but it's also we have to, I feel like for a while, us highly sensitive women, we've been receiving it. I know for me, it's gone on for 7 years since I started publicly sharing my ND. I know for you, you've been out in the public longer. There was a time where because of my highly sensitive nature, I feel I almost tolerated it because it's so normative in the mainstream and it occurs so often. And part of why I chose to put it into the book and share the consequences it had on my field is to just say, we can't just allow this. Like maybe the fact that it's normalized is the biggest thing we need to be talking about.
Yes. Wow.
Because it begins by just having the conversation. Because what I'm learning, as I recently experienced it yet again with a near death talk, is that other women are simultaneously going through it, but there's a culture of silence. And that expands to the bigger themes of the book of trauma because there's a culture of silence around all of that. So we can't cultivate a feminine redemption or feminine reclamation of true divine feminine essence without looking at the underbelly of what's being allowed in creative communities, in storytelling communities. I mean, the near death community, that's to be a medicinal community and it's occurring there. So it really, for me, is like women like ourselves talking about it, putting it into language, putting it into words, calling it out.
Yes, and I think the feminine almost carries a certain shame over it. And I think, like, there's a shame that we shouldn't be carrying when that pain is projected toward us. And that's also probably one of the feelings, the main energies behind the silence, right? We kind of like hide those comments or push them away, and like shake them off when really we should be calling them out
Mhm.
and speaking to them because that's when the energy minimizes, right? When it's looked at deeply.
Exactly. And
That's
you're so good
yeah,
at teaching that. Like going to
yeah,
that like contraction point and then
yes,
finding the way, even if the words, like, suck, as my ego would say, like when I first started coming to you, oh, this is terrible writing.
yes.
It's like that terrible writing is the gateway to getting into the expansive. Like you have to be in the constriction, you
You
know?
have to be in the constriction and as I always say, you have to write to the block. And so in that case, that is one of the blocks in the collective is like this projection coming at the feminine. It's still a block. And the more people will speak to it, the less it becomes powerful. The more it will dissolve. And we look at that in a writing piece as well. Like if there's something really strong in your field that you're avoiding writing about, it's gonna lessen the energy of all the other words that you're trying to write. So we have to speak to that first, which is essentially the block. Yeah.
Yes. And
Yeah.
sometimes it's so simple because what I learned in our co-editing journey, I
Yeah.
mean, I've talked about this publicly, but I've not said it in this talk. I had all these different drafts, which I've acknowledged, but I basically started rewriting March 1st and finished April 1st.
Amazing. It's incredible. Like that means you were in your brilliance. Yes, genius.
Which was awesome. And then we kind of had a similar pattern in that we started in mid-April and we were done mid-May with the co-editing. And we
Amazing.
made a conscious choice. I want to acknowledge that for the audience. We chose to leave it really raw.
Yes.
It's lyrical. It's not going to resonate with people that don't like that particular style. But that was the way to allow the feminine energy, the sacred feminine energy that was coming through not to be altered.
Yes, that's
I would
beautiful.
say, I
Yeah.
would say one of the biggest alters we made is just really those parts where I needed to come back in, you know?
That's it. I mean, it was it was so beautifully written. Yes. I those were just the parts where you had to, and I had to say, well, what does that look like on a Tuesday, right? What does
I-
that look like on a
I'll never forget
Wednesday?
that line.
You can speak to these incredible themes in such a big way. And also, what does that look like in a human life in their day-to-day routine, right? So we just ground it down into the body, into the daily rhythms. And you did such a great job. You knew immediately what to say and do. Yeah.
But what I also want to add to that, as you so beautifully stated, sometimes it's simplicity. It's like taking complexity and simplifying it.
Yeah.
And there were times, I mean, a couple times when I went out of the body, and I would say to you, "Well, it's because of a traumatic brain injury, and I can't remember." And you're like, "So just write that." It would be like one sentence, and I had been like oscillating on how do I like explain why and it's like, oh, or one other one I remember was I just wrote, I dissociate as I'm writing this because it's painful. Like I mean, it was like,
That's what happens when you write that. It all comes through beautifully.
yes, it was the simplicity. I think a lot of times as creatives, we have a tendency to go too big too fast.
Yeah, we
You know,
do.
and you've spoken beautifully. Victoria has a wonderful new collective, Fern, for wondrous women that are doing really amazing creative things. And you spoke beautifully about like when people go kind of big picture rather than taking the baby steps.
Yes, yes. It's all about the baby steps, and that takes you to the big picture much, much faster than just staying, up in the air of the vision. Yes.
And we spoke a lot too about ritual, and I want to put that out there because part of how I was able to do it so fast was because I devoted myself to ritual. And
Yes.
ritual came first. It was like the somatics and the energetics and the movement for the body to have the space to hold whatever the trauma brought up and not have me fly out.
Yes.
So that would be, I mean, people all ask me how I did it so fast, and I'm like, I spent 3 hours in practices just to write 2 hours.
Absolutely, Brooke, and that's so essential. And I, ritual is such a beautiful word, and I look at it as a physical, almost like a physical dance with whatever your ritual is. It's like you're putting your body into that gentle, safe movement. When I talk about movement, it can be an emotional movement. It can be listening to music, certain music. It can be lighting incense. It can be taking the same drive every morning or a walk at, 10 a.m. or something. And ritual really grounds us back into who we essentially are, just having that rhythm, the day-to-day rhythm. It's so important,
And it's part of
especially
that,
before creation. Yeah.
definitely. And it's part of that nervous system capacity.
Yes, it is. It is. All of this becomes very visceral. It's physical.
Mm.
Writing is physical, the remembering is physical, and flow state is very physical. So anything we can do to nurture the nervous system
For
is how we can create incredible things in this world, whether it's a book or business or anything else, in a gentle, sustainable way. Because you wrote that book and you did not crash. You stayed present, you stayed grounded, you didn't and I love this also because like if your nervous system hadn't been ready, you would have crashed deeply. But
Definitely.
you've been just even keel the whole way and able to hold it, and that's incredible.
Well, I think that really also spirals into the theme of community,
Yeah.
in the past. And I think that's really why Spirit guided me to reach out to you and start doing the immersions. In the
Yeah.
past, because of a trauma response, when you're a childhood trauma survivor and you've gone decades of hyper independence and
Yeah.
that is how you cope, it can be very disorienting to come into communities. But
Yes.
I had the gift of finally being received in the near death community,
Yes.
and that started to expand my window of tolerance. So it was like, okay, I don't fancy myself a writer, but I want to write and I'm already a creative, so I'll put my foot in this pool. And then when you get your foot in the pool, as I've learned, in your immersions and in Fern, all of the feet in the pool are kind of struggling with the same things. And though it's not therapy, it becomes an emotionally corrective experience to be in that pool.
Yeah, and we're training the nervous system. Absolutely. We're
Yes.
training the nervous system to be able to handle it all and expand so then we can create from a sustainable place. Yeah. And these are the things people don't talk about with writing and creativity. Tend to bypass these things when these are the absolute heart of what we're doing, these things. Yeah.
Absolutely. Because to me, and this is just based on lived experience, but a lot of it, like
Yeah.
decades of self-sabotage. Okay. It's like if I have a drug of choice, it might be self-sabotage. Like,
Same.
despite my history, you would think it's other things, but nope, it's self-sabotage. And so for me, I can speak to expand upon all these things we're eliminating because when it came time to get things ready for print, there were a plethora of life events and multiple deaths, ironically, for a near-death experiencer within, I think, 4 to 5 weeks. And my nervous system was tested in those
Yes.
moments
Yes.
because those old wounds got activated. And it kind of became, how committed are you? And the automatic answer was just because you're not writing the content anymore doesn't mean you can't live the ritual and the practices.
Oh, so good. Yes.
So then it would be do the rituals and then write about, I don't want to self-sabotage, or oh, I feel like doing it,
Yes,
or
there you
whatever it
go.
was. And so that became kind of like, I almost think the post book is as interesting, as the book, because I was using all of those same resources to
Yes,
say, hey, this isn't just about me. The world is ready now. And
yes,
I'm scared. And it's
yes.
legitimate to feel scared in a world where you have been attacked for all of these things.
It
And
is,
at
it's
the
real.
same time, the world is changing,
It is. Yeah.
you know?
And we can really self-source our own sense of safety. We learn over time that we can. And again, it does come back to the ritual. It comes back to feeling safe in our own bodies and knowing, at the end of the day, I always tell everyone it's just people, like the good and bad, they're just people on the other end.
Mhm.
And there are people that need your work. There are people that will see you and feel you and resonate. And it's a gift at the end of the day to be a receiver of someone else's art. And when we keep it to ourselves, we rob others of that and ourselves of the feeling of belonging and connection that only people receiving our work will be able to give us sometimes. Because, writing it shouldn't be a solitary experience. I feel it's a communal experience. Yeah.
Definitely. I mean, I definitely feel that now, and that's what led to so many choices in the book, asking you to co-edit, asking my friend to do the cover
Yes.
art, asking another near-death friend to do the forward. But for me, the major difference in that trinity of my conscious co-creators is that you're feminine. And I needed that. I don't think for me, when it was in the raw manuscript form, giving it to the masculine, that
Yeah.
could have been a nervous system activation.
For sure. Yeah, it could have. Yeah, it would have felt probably harsh and heavy at that point where you were
Mm.
to give it over to them because you needed to stay in that flow state with it. You needed like the feminine energetic surrounding it because that's how it was birthed.
Definitely. And it's so
Yeah.
fun too because it was almost playful. I don't know if you recall, but like, we were working on Zoom and you're speed reading to go through the energy of things and I'm following along and I would like clarify something and you're like, how do you know exactly where I am? And I'm like, oh, I'm just tracking with you.
We were psychically tracking each other. Yeah,
That was a
for
trip.
sure.
that was fun, and that's not something you can do with just anybody. So I totally
Right.
loved that. I totally loved it. And by
We're in the same realm there. Yeah.
exactly. It was like a frequency, And I mean, again, that's the thing. It's like for me, I think I would struggle to edit like in a traditional way now, because I have the heavy academic background, and that
Yeah.
was what the original plan was to give it to my academic friends that are professors. And then once you and I got through it, I was like, there's gonna be these perfectly imperfect imperfections, but I like it that way versus what I know. They would take the meat out, you
Oh,
know?
they would take the beauty out. Yeah.
Poetry,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they would take the poetry out. And so much of this book is poetry. I mean, the whole story really, it's gorgeous. And it speaks to the deep feminine in ways that other books don't. Like you go so deep into it, Brooke, every aspect of the feminine. I was amazed at how you like seamlessly braided it all together. Everything a woman might go through in her life from like love relationships, mothering, the earth connection, the nervous system, the trauma, the near death experience, which is absolutely fascinating as someone that hasn't been through that, right? But how it's all interwoven so beautifully. That's what gets me the most.
I so appreciate
Yeah,
it.
I mean, I feel like this book needs to be read. People will understand them. Even you talk about the medical field, all of it.
Thank you so, so,
Yeah.
so much. And it's wild, we when we're in our groups, we do things seasonally. All
Yeah.
Victoria's offerings are, and that's just who I
They're
am.
all seasonal.
So I knew my energy field was entering a new season on July 29th. And I had originally intended to put it out on the 13th for the Divine Feminine, as 13th is one of my favorite numbers, and it's the one they
Yeah.
took out of everything, right? But we
Wow,
had
yeah.
some hiccups and it had to get delayed. So then I chose the 29th. So, as we're recording this, that was just a few days ago.
Yeah.
And what that signified when it released on Amazon, and it's available in ebook and print now.
Amazing.
Yay! This is
Yeah.
the first copy I'm holding, by the
Oh,
way,
and the
of the
back
final
cover. Perfect.
thank you, of the final project. It was auspicious for me because it paid reverence to us using seasons to create it, but
Uh-huh.
also July 29th was the Aquarius full moon and in the Leo season. And my South node, which is your karma, is Aquarius. And my North node, which is playful, child of creativity, divinity, and expression and leadership, is Leo. And so when
Wow.
it came out, that day, I was just like, oh, it was always meant to be this way. Because so much of the book is working through that Aquarius, working through being hyper intellectual, working through coloring outside the lines, working through being an innovator and not fitting in, which was so many of the themes of the karma compounded by trauma. And then so much of the work that I'm stepping into and the work that we're co-creating together is about that Leo energy, which is
Yeah.
just passion
Yeah.
and play and unencumbered joy. And I feel
Yeah.
like the deficit I had with my Aquarian energy, and my angels like this, they just lit up, um, is that I love that I can talk freely about that stuff. That there was no play. Like
Yeah.
it was all in the mind,
Oh,
and the Leo capacity as an archetype is just so much of a medicinal balm for my inner children because it's like, hey, this is where you were stunted, and now you get to be that forever.
yeah.
It's like
Wow.
the
Yeah.
ultimate redemption to what was taken. And the best part from a feminine standpoint is it was a co-creation with feminine energy in a feminine tribe, and it didn't hold back on the atrocities done to the feminine while doing it with love. And I
I love
think,
intentfulness. Yes.
yeah, and having and knowing that, other people would support you. I mean, for me, Victoria, with my history, I have a deep distrust of trusting people.
Yeah. Yeah.
So like knowing, like, well, what if she doesn't like it and that's not a good enough book, or what if he doesn't like it when he reads it, or that stuff's there for the ego, the lower mind. But
Yeah.
with each of you, I got to have an emotionally corrective experience
Yeah.
because all you did was nurture it and give it love and mirror that back to me. So I honestly feel the creation of it in community was the most healing part for me.
Absolutely. Yes.
So, and then the hope is, my most sincere hope is that because this was born from such intense love, and I consciously called in people that I deeply love and care for and love their art or their beingness, and
Yeah.
that love will be the only thing it can serve. Whether people
Oh,
believe it or not,
yeah.
it was made from love. It's the vibration of love, hence the rose on the cover, the highest
Oh, so
frequency.
beautiful.
So
God,
I'm
that's
just so
amazing.
grateful that you chose. I mean, you accepted my invitation to be part of this journey, and I'm just so
Yeah.
grateful for that.
Oh, I love being part of it, Brooke. This book is love. It really is. Every single sentence, you can feel the energy behind it, which is love. You care so deeply about the feminine. You care so deeply about the nervous system, about a woman's experience in this world, about a near-death experience like in this existence. And your heart just radiates all the way through. Like it's just so many parts brought me to tears where I was like, wow, like this woman knows everything. She's so brilliant, right? Yeah. She
Thank you.
understands the feminine so deeply. And that's why I think it should go into the hands of every woman.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
That's a big honor for you to say that. And it's
Yes.
been, as I said, so nourishing. And I really, I just, it's kind of surreal. I mean, I know you once told me that, the book isn't that big of a deal. It goes out there and it's kind of released and it's done. Like people make a big deal out of it, you know? I would say in my case, I might be an outlier. I self-sabotaged my doctoral stuff. I self-sabotaged many opportunities in the near-death community. And the one thing that my soul was like, absolutely, you are not self-sabotaging this, was this book.
Yeah, yeah.
And
And you
now
did.
when I look at our awakening world and all the things that are happening and all the things I can openly talk about, that to be honest, there's chapters in there I wouldn't have wrote last year.
Yeah.
I just wouldn't
Wow.
have. But the
Yeah.
world's changed so fast. And now
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, wow, I get to do this. And it does feel like a big deal because it
Yeah.
feels like this energy that's been in my field for a very long time now
Yeah.
gets to live outside of it.
Oh, that's amazing. I love it. Goosebumps. Yes, absolutely. Wow. It's magic. It really is so magical, the
It
whole experience.
is. It is. And
Yeah.
so for anyone this resonates with, please, if you don't know Victoria Erickson already, check out her work. She's all over the socials. I will have a link in the show notes to all her stuff so you can check it out. Highly recommend it all as someone that's tried
Thanks
it
so
all.
much. Yeah. Oh, I can't tell you how much I love being part of this project and watching this book just enter the world in the way it is in the timing. It's all amazing.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
So proud of you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Please check out The Beauty and the Broken Glass, Memoirs of Trauma and Transcendence, available at Amazon now. I will be doing a lot of in-person readings in the coming year, so please check my website, www.brookgrovehealing.com. There will be a link in the show notes. Again, Victoria, you are a soul sister. It is, I mean,
Likewise.
it's still surreal that, for me taking and screenshotting your stuff, we got to co-create this together.
Oh,
So,
life. Yes. I'm
yes,
so glad to have been a part of it. Thank you, Brooke. Yeah.
so grateful too. So, thank you for your time today. I appreciate you.
Sure. Love being
Bye for
here.
now,
Appreciate you too.
beloveds.
Bye.